What's up, everyone? It is December 15th, 2019. This is episode 29 of Half the Story podcast. Let's get into it. How we doing? How we doing? It is Sunday. We're back. What's been going on, guys? Hope you liked the last episode. Back again. Got the new, kind of rigged up a little bit of lighting in here, so if I look a little more pale, it's because of there's some additional lighting in here, so thought I'd give you guys a closer look on at my complexion and my pores and everything like that. So yeah, I got a little extra lighting in today because it's been getting dark out a little earlier than usual, and it's been getting a little hard to get out of bed in the mornings because we're at the time of year where it's dark when you go to work and dark when you get off work. So and it's no different here on the West Coast. If anything, it's been a little rainy and stuff. But, yeah, it gets tough to get out of bed in the morning, when it doesn't get sunlight till about 7:30, 7:45. So, I don't know why I'm talking about that. But, yep, definitely did get a little bit of light here, a little extra lighting on this podcast. Still working out the kinks, still trying to figure everything out. As always, I'm not a professional by any means, but I make do with what I got. So it's good to be back. Prepared a little bit of topics here for us today. Football season is in full swing. Although I can kind of say that I have stopped caring about it per se because I, in fact, did lose my fantasy last week. So knocked out of the playoffs and no longer eligible for the grand prize. So bummer on that, but it actually freed up my day a little bit, not having to worry about that. So it's kind of nice. It's kind of a double-edged sword. It makes the football games more interesting. You care about it more. But then at the same time, too, when you aren't playing fantasy football, I don't really give a hoot about it today. So I just caught a little bit of the games, but yeah, fantasy football makes the games a little interesting, especially when you don't really care for a bunch of teams. But yeah, fantasy season is over. It's on to nothing more after that fantasy season. On to next year, I suppose. So yeah, there's football today. There's big fights on last night. 3 title fights. Big fights. Didn't really get to catch them. Tried to follow them as close as I could. We actually went out last night for our 6-year anniversary of dating. So shout out to Christy for hanging in there for 6 years. I know a lot of people can't even hang with me for 20 minutes without having to leave for a little bit. So shout out to her for sticking around for 6 years. And shout out to me for sticking around for 6 years too, because you never think you're going to be in a long-term relationship until you are. So it's kind of weird. Thinking, dang, it's already been 6 years. I'm getting old. So definitely didn't have any white or gray hairs when I met her. And now I'm starting to get a couple of little white hairs and little gray hairs here on the chin. So, but it's all good. 6 years of being together. And, yeah, so we went out last night, had some dessert, had some whiskey. Now I'm a whiskey guy. I always try to follow my idols, Brendan Schaub and, the Red Rocket, Andrew Santino, they're whiskey guys. So now I'm a whiskey guy now. And I've had the last 2 times I've drank, I've gotten that Buffalo Trace. the only bourbon with balls. So I've been starting to drink that, and it's pretty good. Pretty good. Learning how to like it, but I still like them ciders as well. But yeah, I get that whiskey on the rocks, and now I just can't even think of it what it was. When you get like your drink not on the rocks, I can't remember what it's called, like comfortable or something like that. Like, do you want your drink comfortable, or man, I can't remember it now. But I get the opposite of that. I get it on the rocks. So maybe there's probably some snobs out there that are like, man, you can't get the whiskey on the rocks because that dilutes it. But I like a little coldness too. I can't just drink something that's been hanging out in the room for a while. So got to get a little cooling for my mouth. So yeah, now I'm a whiskey guy. But yeah, going back to the fights last night, caught up with them. Kamaru Usman beat Kobe Covington. Amanda Nunes won, and then Max Holloway lost his title after having a 13 fight win streak in the division. Like I said, I didn't really watch the fights too much. I was out, but man, it sounded like a good night of fights, and I think the next card's gonna be a while. But it got me thinking about MMA, and I'm wearing my Team Rock shirt because I did used to fight MMA, or I guess compete in it, or compete probably in MMA. And I was thinking too, like when I first got this, because like when I joined the gym, I started jiu-jitsu and then kickboxing. And I was kind of just like a college kid. And then like I was like, man, dude, I really want to be like part of a team. So like when I got this Team Rock shirt, I felt like so cool because I felt like I was actually part of like a club or a team. And I was like, yeah, like Team Rock, we're like cage fighters and stuff. So man, it can be a little life-changing too, just to be part of something, just to say you're part of like a team or something like that, because I feel like there's a lot of people out there that don't have teams, whether it's, I don't know what's going on in your life. Like, of course, I got like my home team, which is like my family, and I got like my work team, which are my coworkers. Then I got my boys, my ride or die boys, my guys. That's like a team right there. But then I was like, for a while, I was Team Rock, which was like a bunch of guys beating each other up and then occasionally fighting in small towns in Iowa. So, yeah, I felt like a team that felt good. So that's why I wore that shirt today. Still glad I have the shirt. Yeah, MMA, it's getting crazy because the best thing about MMA is anybody can do it. But the worst thing about MMA is that anybody can do it. So it's kind of a tricky sword because everyone can do martial arts. Everyone can do jiu-jitsu or kickboxing or fighting. And, for the most part, as long as you don't like have herpes on your body or your blood has like AIDS on it and stuff like that, then you can fight in a ring. All you have to do is sign up and like sign a couple waivers. And you can fight in a ring and say you're a cage fighter. So the cool thing is, if you're kind of like a nobody like I am and was back then you could feel kind of cool being a cage fighter and stuff like that. And I don't think that's the reason I did it, but it was kind of part of the reason to do it was I wanted to feel like I was part of something and feel kind of cool doing it. But I was more addicted to the process than the actual fights. I didn't really like the fights that much. But where's I going? Yeah, anybody can be a cage fighter. So think about that. You listening right now, you could be a cage fighter. All you got to do is you don't even have to train. There's lots of people that don't even train and step in the ring and call themselves a fighter. I mean, deep down inside of us, probably we're all fighters in some extent, but Yeah, that's the one thing that's kind of cool and also kind of bad about fighting. And, you'll see people that, say they're fighters all the time, but they don't train like a fighter. And, fighting's one of those things where you'll get humbled really quick, and you just feel sorry for the people that don't realize that they don't have a future in it, but yet tell themselves they do. But where am I going with this? Yeah, I don't know. I think it's like it's fool's gold, because you can tell yourself that you're a fighter, or you can tell yourself you're this and that, and you can be it, but you don't actually have to put in the work. So like I can't do that with my job. I can't say, oh, I'm gonna go out and be an OT today, or I'm gonna go out and be a digital coder, or I'm gonna do people's taxes. I can't just go out and do that. Like I could be a fighter and get paid to do that, because there's things you have to do. You have to go to school. You have to know you have to know what you're doing. But anybody can say they want to be a fighter, and if you are stubborn enough, you can turn pro, which means you just have to fight a pro, and you can get paid a little amount of money to fight someone in a cage and call yourself a fighter. So I don't know what I'm trying to say. It's a great sport, but it's also a little bit of a trap for some people too. So there's nothing else in the world like it. Like I said, you can't. I'm gonna be a pilot, and I can't just jump in and be a pilot. Because there's things you have to go through, but. I can't go play in the NFL next weekend just because I want to. It's not that easy. But fighting, it is easy. And that's the good thing about it, too, is because if you are dedicated enough and you are willing to put in the work, you can go pretty far. So you're just going to have to step on a lot of bodies along the way, crack a few eggs to make an omelet, if you know what I'm saying. And by eggs, I mean other people in the cage there. So yeah, when people see the UFC and stuff, they don't think about these people are just like us. They just rose to the top. So it's the best thing about the sport and kind of the worst thing about the sport too. And actually, I have a patient right now that was a boxer, an MMA fighter. And, he holds on to that, and he still identifies as that, even though he's, 50 some years old. But it's cool talking to him about it and stuff like that. And that's one thing, like when you're getting older too, like when you're getting out of high school, your identity is a basketball player in high school, or the team's quarterback, or the star receiver in high school. And then you get to college and you don't do anything, then what's your identity? Oh, well, now you're a college student, whatever that may be. You don't really have an identity. That's the weird thing. And then if people get in a fight or do fighting and stuff like that, that becomes their identity, even if they're not good at it, and then they cling to that identity. Which you could do that with anything, really, but I don't know what I'm trying to say. I'm just trying to say that, when you're young, it's hard to pick what you want to be, because you feel like you have to be something. You have to identify as something, because people want to label you to understand you, if you know what I mean. Like for a long time, people were like, "Oh, when's your next fight? When's your next fight?" Or, he was my kick or fighter body coach or something like that. And it always bugged me a little bit, like when people are like, "Oh yeah, he's a fighter," because I didn't like telling people that, because I'm not that macho. But otherwise, too, I didn't want to identify as a fighter or a junior high football coach, or I just want people to identify me as me. But I guess I do it all the time with people too. Um, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but it's just like we get these identities and then we feel like we have to live up to them. So, and in fighting, it's really easy to fool yourself thinking you're a fighter and that's your only identity. But in reality, you have many choices in life. Many choices in your life is you got a lot of opportunities elsewhere. So I don't know where I was going with all that, but yeah, the fights were good last night. The fights were good, and football season for all intents and purposes is coming to an end. Last couple of weeks really don't matter. Playoffs teams are pretty much locked in now, so just waiting for the playoffs to come. Then it's time to wrench it up a little bit. But yeah, what's been going on with me? Well, last weekend my sister popped into town. Talked about that just a minute last podcast. So that was nice to see her. Hung out with the fam, brother, sister, sister-in-law. Did all the fun stuff with the fam. And it was good to see her. Over before we knew it, though. So one other thing, too, I forgot to talk about last time is, so I got some basketball shoes not too long ago when we went to the Nike outlet store, or Nike employee store. And Portland has this cool thing about, they have this league, this basketball league, where you can pick to play. So you can register as an individual. You just go online and say, I want to play Thursday. You can play every day of the week, Monday or Sunday through Sunday. And it'll be like at 6:30 on Wednesday, there's a game from 6:30 to 7. Sign up now. You'll be on a team of 6 people, so you'll get lots of playing time. There'll be like referees and stuff. And it's like you're going to play an actual basketball game with refs, but it's really just a pickup game with a bunch of like kind of older dudes and people that like played high school basketball and stuff. So I was like, okay, now I got the shoes, I got them LeBron Soldier shoes or whatever they're called. I was like, now I got to go, play some basketball, and, put these shoes, get my money's worth these shoes. So I signed up one night and went to this gym, and there's a bunch of dudes playing basketball. And I think I was actually, no, I wasn't wearing this shirt, but, and then, so I played the game. When we got there was only 5 people that showed up on my team. So they're like, okay. I was like, in my head, I was like, damn, we're gonna have to play the whole game. And like the first 2 minutes into the game, I was like, yo, dude, I need to sub out. I'm gonna sub out, dude. I'm out of breath. So like, it was very, very strenuous, more strenuous than I remembered. But eventually we got a couple more people came in, random people, and I was able to get subbed out. But not a pretty performance for my first time. But that was the first time actually that I actually even shot a basketball in probably a year and a half ish, 2 years maybe max. So definitely it's a beast to play. So I'm gonna try to get that more often. I'll let you guys know. If you're wondering, I did not score any points. I think I had a couple good rebounds, and I had a couple turnovers, and I think I banged knees with this older guy, but I pretended like I didn't, but he was hurt. And then I think I had a couple good fouls, if that's such thing. And I remember because I played basketball from 8th grade to 10th grade. And I played center, so that's the tallest person on the court, even though I was one of the shortest people, probably 5'10". But I had that bulldozer dump truck, that booty to get rebounds with. So I would just use my butt to scoop people out of the lane and get the rebounds. And I remember one time we were playing, this must have been 9th grade, maybe 8th or 9th grade. We were playing Waverly Shell Rock, and a kid that eventually went on to our football team, like our junior and senior year, his name was Landon Zapital. He was playing center on the other team, and he was pretty much just like me, like built like a linebacker, not a basketball player. And I remember I fouled out that game in like 3 minutes. And granted, it was only 5 fouls to get fouled out, but I remember I just set a couple hard screens, which was pretty much me just running into a guy and knocking him over. And I think hopefully that record still stands for the quickest foul out, getting fouled out in ninth grade basketball. So pretty proud of that record. I still remember it to this day. But yeah, because I had to guard that Landon kid, and me and him were just like two linebackers butting heads, and I definitely fouled him a lot. But I remember one time my hand was just on his back, and the ref was like, beep, foul. And I was like, he was just trying to get me out, though, I think. So, but yeah, definitely going to try to get a couple more games in maybe this week. So yeah, you can pick to play any night, week. It's kind of cool. Get that basketball in. So, yeah, I got kind of had a Christmas. It was the building's work party, but it's not my rehab work party yet. But we had the building rehab or work Christmas party, and your boy wanted an Alexa, Amazon Alexa Echo, which is kind of ironic because we just got a Amazon Alexa Echo on Black Friday, so now we got 2 of them in the house. So definitely have the government spying on us, listening to us, and stuff like that. But I mean, we have our phones on us at all times too, so they're probably watching us and listening to us on the phone, listening to this podcast right now. Hopefully they subscribe. Yeah, I got 2 of those, and those Alexas are pretty neat. You can set an alarm with them. You can talk to them if you're lonely. You can tell them to wake you up to some music, or all these kind of fun stuff. My favorite thing to do with an Alexa is ask it to make a fart noise, and then it'll do a fart. So it just means I'm 13 years old, though. So if you have an Alexa, say, Alexa, make a fart noise, and she will indeed fart. But yeah, so got a couple of those bad girls in the house now. Living with 3 women right now, 2 Alexas and Christy. So that's interesting. And yeah, what else? Oh, and then my rehab Christmas party's coming up on Tuesday, a school night or a work night. So probably can't get too crunk for that. But we're doing Secret Santa, which is always kind of weird a little bit because you don't know what to get the person. Well, I know what person I have, but it's always weird when you don't know them that well. I know like a couple things about this person, but not really. So I don't know what I'm going to get him or her yet. Yeah, because Secret Santas are always pretty interesting like that. Hopefully, I asked for some bear spray, Buffalo Trace whiskey, or Aquanet hairspray. That's what I asked for. Because Aquanet reminds me of my mom growing up. She would spray the whole bathroom with Aquanet when she got ready. So it's just kind of like a memory aid or a memory tool to reminisce. If you just spray a little Aquanet in the air and just walk through it, kind of takes you back. Yeah, so that was what I asked for my Secret Santa from my rehab team there. So we'll see. I'll let you guys know after Tuesday how that goes. So I'm pretty crunk about that. Yeah, Christmas is coming up. Still got some shopping to do. Still got to see, watch some movies and stuff like that. And looking forward to all that good stuff with the holidays. Got to work all the holidays, but get that time and a half pay. So what's going on here? Okay. Did finish finished David Goggins' book, Can't Hurt Me, and been stretching every day since. So I've been doing a little. So he was having some big health concerns, and he realized that his hips are so tight that it was pulling on his lower back pretty much, causing a lot of pain and, back pain and stuff like that. And, just a lot of pain everywhere. And he wasn't able to do anything, like heart problems. And then he started stretching his hip flexors and just his hips and his glutes and stuff like that. And I mean, he got obsessed with stretching, where he was stretching like 4 or 5 hours a day. But after all that stretching, all those symptoms kind of went away, and he's been in the best shape since. But that book is really good. It's called Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. It's a really good book. So yeah, he kind of inspired me to do stretching. I've been doing it I think I've done it every night this past week. So what I do is I do 2-minute rounds of stretching. So I do 2 minutes on the right side, 2 minutes on the left side. I do that twice. So the first one I do like what's the first one I do? Like a glute stretch, where I put my foot up on the wall and then I cross my other leg over my knee and stretch out my glute. So I do that 2 minutes on each side twice. And then I do a hip flexor stretch, which pretty much is kind of like a lunge. I'm pushing my hips forward and I stretch each hip flexors 2 minutes each side twice. And then I finish with kind of like the Indian sit, or it's not crisscross applesauce, but where you put your feet together and then your knees are up like this. And then you push your elbows down on your knees like that. So I do that for 2 minutes, and then I do a straight leg stretch, and then I do go back to that for 2 minutes. So ends up being like 26 minutes of stretching on the hips and stuff like that. But I think it's been okay. We'll see. I've always said I had tight hips, and I haven't thrown any kicks yet to see if I've loosened up. But that'll be kind of the big test there. Is if I can get my high kicks up there, head height. So I could never do a good high kick with my left leg, but I'm hoping after all this stretching, maybe I can start head kicking people more often. So that's kind of what I'm going through. Been reading up on my brother's book too. Partial ways through that. It's the first it's fiction. One of the first fiction books I've read in a long time. And it's extremely detailed and a lot of parallels to his actual life, I presume. And a lot of things I can see behind the curtain a little bit. And so far, so good. I can't give away any spoilers because it's a work in progress, but keep you updated on that, see how it's going. Yeah, so work's been going okay. It's, constant struggle city. And, one thing I hope that I have when I'm older is the will and the focus that some of these people that I work with have, for them to be able to have a cigarette. So people will, be on their deathbed, so to say, but they still got to get out for that cigarette, and I hope I find something when I'm that age that gets me out of bed at night, or gets me out of bed during the day, because, some people can't do therapy, or too tired to do therapy, or can't do this or that, but they can go do cigarettes outside and stuff like that. So I don't know what it is, man. I hope that I have that strength when I'm older. I hope that I love something that much that I got to keep doing it. And I don't know. It must be addicting. I've never smoked cigarettes, but can only imagine it's addicting. There's only There's a couple of things I can think of right now that I would do. If there were some things that I had to, like, there was one thing I could do that I would save my energy for, what would that be? Honestly, it would probably be just watching sports, live sports. If I had to pick like one kind of hobby that was like, okay, you can only do this, you only have enough energy for this, which doesn't take any energy to sit down and watch fights or watch football or something like that. But it's kind of funny because I was talking to my sister-in-law. We were talking last week about sports and stuff like that. We were talking about how the Trailblazers were in the playoffs last year and the whole city was excited. And she's like, yeah, it was she vehemently does not like sports and like doesn't like sports at all. Like just the word sports is like foreign. But she was like, yeah, like I don't like sports, but I like I remember like when the Trailblazers were in the playoffs and like we'd go out and like the atmosphere and everyone was excited and stuff like that and like cheering for them. And I was like, yeah, that's exactly why other people like sports too. So it was kind of funny. It was kind of a gotcha moment. And yeah, so that's why people like sports. It's because it's not that you like it, that you need to see it, but man, it just gets you excited. Sometimes you need something just to get you excited about something, whether it's someone knocking someone out in the UFC or if it's a touchdown run by their quarterback or if it's a grand slam by the Mark McGuires of the world. You need something to get you excited and get your rocks off, and everyone's got what they got, whatever floats their boat, so to say. So it's kind of funny that that conversation came up a little bit. So I did this a while ago too. I can't remember what episode I did it. It's called, and then I saw it at Goodwill's. It was like a little box, like a little card game called Table Topics. And I thought it would be fun to do maybe just like one or two of these every episode just to get the juices flowing and things like that. So I'm going to do a couple, maybe one or two each episode here. And I got a list that I pirated off the internet of 365 table topic questions. So I'm just going to run through maybe a couple of these just to get the juices flowing a little bit more. So let's do okay, this one right here. What is your most beloved childhood memory? And that's a kind of a loaded question because I got a lot of beloved childhood memories. Mostly with my fam, which my immediate family being my sister, my brother, and my mom. One that kind of comes, my mom was always working when I was a kid, late nights, early mornings. Early mornings into the late night, early morning. She owned her own business, so like we would always, and I was the youngest, so I was kind of always the last one to leave the nest, as they say. And I just remember hanging out with my mom a lot while she was working at her shop, and we'd always play movies and stuff because it was big back then that you could go to the movie store and get like 10 movies for $10 for 10 nights or something like that. You could rent them or something like that. So we'd always get movies, and one of my beloved childhood memories that just comes off the top of my head is just hanging with her while she's at work, and we'd watch Austin Powers all the time. So Just sitting there, hearing the sewing machine going, watching Austin Powers for the 10th time of the week. Those are good times. So, next one here. Ooh. This one's going to be a little tough. What do you love most about yourself? So, I don't really like to bloat or goat or anything like that, but what do I love most about myself? I love most about myself would be that I'm funny, for one. Two would be, just my humor, I think. And it's weird because I was never around my dad that much, but I think I have some of his humor from what I'm told. And so probably my humor and my approach to life, which is not that serious. So those are the things that I probably like most about myself. It's probably not my big butt. So let's do one more. We got time for one more. Let's see. Those ones are all about love, kinda. Let's see. I should just do a random number generator. That makes me have to do them. Okay, here's one that's kind of good. Who do you think of first when you think of success? And I might have touched on this a while ago on another podcast. I don't think of one particular person per se, but I think of a person in general of success. Success to me would be a person who's successful is a person that is doing what they want to do, being who they want to be, and loving every minute of it, and making a living on what they want to do. So good example of that is someone... So think of a fighter, or think of someone. So I think of Nate Diaz, who he is. That's all he is. He's authentic to himself. He's able to make a living off of himself. He's successful at being himself. If you can just be successful being who you are, then that makes you successful. Does that make sense? Or if you can just be successful with who you are, to me, that's a success. I hope that makes sense. I don't think of success as, man, I grew up in the low income, rose out of there. Now I have this business and making all this money and my family's secure. I don't know if that's success to me as much as, and that might be what they want, but success to me would be just whatever you are, if you can be successful at being who you really are. You know what I'm saying? So if someone's a majestic painter and they don't live for money or fame or anything like that, like Picasso or Romeo and Juliet, or they're not painters, or Michelangelo's. If those people are successful because that's what they wanted to do with their life, and they put their life's work into it, and I'm sure they were probably happy, but I'm sure they had bad days too. So that's successful to me. I don't really care about the newest iPhone or the newest AirPods in your ears, but are you doing what you want to do with your life when you want to do it? Are you moving forward? So that's kind of is what success is, what I would define a successful person as. And I don't know if I'm a success yet. I definitely feel okay, but still lots of work to do in the life. But we're living it. We're loving it. We're laughing, live, love, laugh, and we're getting through it together. So those are the 3 table topics that I picked today. Maybe I'll do some randomized, computerized trials and get a couple more for the next episode. But that was fun. Made me kind of think about other things, get the juices flowing, and all that good stuff. Coming up this week, I got my Christmas party for that rehab team, gang. And then what else is going on this week? Shoot, that's probably it. I think Christmas is coming up in like a week, 2 weeks. Or something like that. Probably like that. Yeah, I think that's all I got for you guys today. Oh, I think I'm getting the podcast on the Spotify app. So you should be able to listen to Half the Story podcast on the Spotify app. Let me quick search it here. Half the Story. Oh, it's not up yet. But just know that I did do some work trying to get the podcast onto Spotify. I think when I kind of submitted everything and gave all the details and stuff to Spotify, I said it might take a while, especially with all the episodes on my feed. I don't know if they're all going to come over, all the old episodes, or if it's just going to be the new ones. But working on getting it on Spotify, because I know a lot of people do use Spotify, and that would just be another spot for you to listen to this podcast. As always, guys, thank you for the support. If you can, subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram, on Facebook. I'd say Instagram, I'm probably the most active. But you can be getting your fix out on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, YouTube if you want the video. I mean, it's nothing special. The video is nothing special, but I don't know. Some people like it. And then coming soon is Spotify. Once I get the green light and all systems go, I'll blast it out there that you can now listen on Spotify. So still want to get some shirts made. Just a little bit of money to fork over to get everything started with that. So we'll see how that goes. But in the meantime, guys, I'll probably, it's December 15th. So I'll definitely get another episode in maybe next week, later this week, early next week. Keep you guys updated and informed. As always, guys, thank you. Support if you like. Give us some shout outs. Let your brother, your mother, your cousin, your dog, your friend steal their phone. Subscribe to me. Let's get this thing popping. I don't really have a goal for 2020 yet for this podcast, but yeah, I'm gonna think about that and let you guys know next episode because it's coming up. So I want to make a couple goals for the podcast in 2020. So I'll keep you guys informed. Other than that, guys, thank you, and we're out. This is Half the Story Podcast. Peace.